So at ODVN, I am a grantee, so I receive funding through them through Delta. And so I'm part of the support team. Ultimately, I support the end goal of ODVN, which is to reduce intimate partner violence within the state of Ohio. And so my role within that is focusing on something specific in Knox County, and ours is the alcohol use and misuse among youth. And then also like it's we are focusing on youth, but we're also focusing on our whole population as well. Thinking about those risk factors and how they play into it and how they ultimately like can cause harm, and like the alcohol is used as a tool to cause harm, and then when youth are turning to alcohol use at a young age, their brain development is impaired, so then they're going to do things without thinking. They already don't have impulse control because their brains aren't fully developed, and then you add a substance into that that causes impairment, like the Teen Advisory Council, which is our youth-led council in Knox County. It's of high school students, and so ultimately they guide a lot of the work that our Delta project does. They have a huge component of it because they really are the ones that are leading the force to make these social changes within our community. So recognizing that parents shouldn't be hosting safe parties and serving alcohol and taking the keys. Like that's not the
Right.
safe choice. Hosting parties with alternatives than alcohol use, such as like a board game night or a themed party night, and having it really be healthy choices is other ways that they can do that. So they're spreading that message. And then they know what's impacting their peers. Like I don't like I'm aged out well and beyond, like, and so I can pretend that I do, but I don't. Like, and they don't need adults saying, "No, this is what's problematic for your group right now," and like this is really what's impacting you. Like we need to hear from youth, and youth voices need to be heard. So but so like ultimately like, that's what we're doing in Knox County to support ODVN is this youth-led initiative to really create this social change saying, hey, like within our county, we are not going to tolerate violence. We're going to be active bystanders, and we're going to raise up protective factors to reduce these risk factors. And like the things that are impacting them ultimately all connect and correlate. Mental health, anxiety, suicide, alcohol and substance use, teen dating violence, like navigating pressures with from family, like family connectedness. They all connect to one another and relate. And we're hearing that from our youth. And so like that's ultimately what's leading our work that we do. So TAC of Knox is the Teen Advisory Council. So it's a youth-led council, and it's comprised of 6 high schools in our county. So we have 5 high schools and then a career center, and then we have also homeschool population. So within that, the high school, so we typically get around like age like 14, 15 to 18 years of age. They get to be and really like make up TAC. And so there are students that want to make a better community for our environment, like our community, and like the environment in which like they're learning, growing, and developing skills and knowledge for their future. So what TAC does is they are just a like-minded individuals who want to be their unique, authentic selves and hear their voices heard and engage with other peers and empower one another, really, to have their voices be heard and talk about what's relevant within their lives, what's problematic, and how can they help support their peers. So it is something that's unique, like in the sense that they get to come together with other students. So like someone in one high school may not have any contact with another high school, but then when they come together and be part of tag and they come to a county meeting, they get to meet all these other students from other schools and understand like that there's students at each school that really want what's best for one another. And then they get to take that and go to their schools and have school meetings and like try to recruit and encourage other students to come and just say like, hey, there are so many people out there that like are really leading this charge for like a better tomorrow for them and like for a kind environment. So it's fun. Like they keep me entertained and educated. So we had the individuals come to Knox County and meet us here. And so we had about 8 students at some point be a part of the workshop. And what they would do is we would meet and do whatever was the topic for the workshop, and then we would host a county meeting right after it. And so then they would share everything from the workshop into the county TAC meeting. And then those TAC students would talk about it and like say, oh, well, maybe you should suggest this next time, or like things like that. So ultimately, like our whole group got some input, but there was a core group that really worked on it. Within the workshops, what I really appreciated was the flexibility and the willingness to let it flow how our tax students had it flow. And like not walking in with an agenda and pushing anything on them. So then they really felt like their voices were heard and like it really was about them and individualized to them. I really appreciated that because that's something that like is my top number one priority for these students. Um, it opened the door for a lot of conversations. Our tax students said that they felt like they were leaving counseling sessions afterwards, which is awesome in my eyes because I'm like, yeah, like, so you really got some stuff off of your chest with somebody other than like a safe person or maybe me. And you were validated, your feelings were validated, your experiences were validated from someone else. Because sometimes, like, they just are like, yeah, Lindsay, like, you're supposed to do that. And yeah, like I want to validate you. I want you to be heard. But like for somebody else, like to say, like, yeah, like that's hard. And like we've heard that's how people experience it was really nice for them. And I think it made the project that all more meaningful. And like that's why they were connected to it more. So they had a connection and a relationship, especially with Lily. She was amazing and great with them, and they loved looking forward to Lily coming and like learning what guest was coming too. So I also liked how each workshop built upon itself so that like you were always seeing like forward progress within the activity and ultimately like the end goal of the project. So and Lily did a really good job about using this questionnaire that she brought and getting a lot of like their information and compiling it and then using music as well to like pull with their emotions and like talk about like okay, like when you listen to one of your favorite songs, like why is it your favorite song, what do you like about it, and really getting them to really focus on that to then understand like okay, like this is what we want our project then to be. I loved it and they loved it. I mean, that's so generic and saying, but when he was with them, like just listening to them, he was really actively engaged and like really hearing what they were saying. And you couldn't tell that he was like also like listening to take it in for lyrics. Like he was actively listening for them to be heard. And they really opened up for Dom a lot more than they actually thought that they were going to. And afterwards, when we were debriefing, they were like some of the like common sayings was like, I can't believe we just sat and talked for an hour and a half or 2 hours and like we shared all of that with him. Like we don't normally do that. And I was like, well, you felt safe and comfortable with him. Like, and what I really liked about Dom was that after he wrote the song, I like can literally pull pieces from the song and I know who sitting at that table said that statement or said that phrase. And so he literally like took those and put it in. And the fact that he didn't take notes and could just remember that, like that was really cool. But yeah, I mean, he was easily connectable and like his energy was great for them. So I really liked that. So my all-time favorite moment that I can relive is sitting in the sound studio at the Wright Center. Kenyon College let us use their Wright Center studio. And so we had four of our tech students with us, and then Dom and the sound engineer and Lily. But one of the dads of our tech students, his name's John. He is the one that got us the space and let us use it. And him and Lily knew each other. But so I remember sitting there when they're in the sound booth singing, and I was a proud mom. Like, I mean, I have those moments. I have three young children, but like I was a proud mom. I couldn't stop smiling, like just listening to them sing and record their songs while having Dom sit in front of them and like just be like silently cheering them on. And this dad standing there just like watered eyed, like
Oh,
smiling from ear to ear, like hearing like their what's impacting them, go into lyrics and then go into this music. And then them singing that, it like it was such a moment and like I'll remember that moment. And then like them getting the opportunity to play their musical instruments on that and seeing how like it all overlaid each other to create it, like their faces at the end were just priceless. Like they were smiling so big and like when you get like really excited and exhausted because of that, like that's what happened in like an hour. Like they walked out and they're like, we're so tired, but like we're so rejuvenated. And it's because they put so much of their effort and their energy and emotion into that project in that moment. And I honestly like feel like it shows when you listen to the music. And it was so funny because like Dom would be like, "Yeah, I messed up," and they're like, "What? Like that was so good." So like they were a cheerleader for him as well. And he shared like it was like the one of the fastest, quickest processes he said, which was really cool for that. But yeah, that was my favorite moment, literally just watching them do what they had worked so hard to get to that point. So, what's truly amazing is that some of these kids come from low economic status, like the diversity in which they bring to this, like they may have never had the opportunity to step into the right center sound area. Like and so giving them that opportunity to do that, like and experience such a different like side of art. One of our tech students actually was like, this is amazing. Like I could see myself like going somewhere in my future for like music and like sound engineering just from the result of that experience. And really like that's what I want to do. I want to empower them with life experiences and life knowledge and skills that helps pave this new creative path for them. I think it's important because it's what they're turning to manage their emotions. Ultimately, with youth, when we think about youth mental health and their anxiety, they're turning to different methods in which to cope in a healthy way. And whether it's listening to music, drawing, journaling, crafting, knitting, art plays a huge role in that management of that mental health in a healthy way. And so I think it's important that we meet our youth where they're at. And so art speaks to them. Art is an opportunity for anyone to connect to. And so why not use that? to really connect with as many as we possibly can. Like our hope with our song, Not Alone, it's to reach anyone that is feeling like they're isolated or alone or unsure about what's happening, and to say like you're not the only one experiencing this. Like we're here for you, or they're there for you. You have peers who are there for you. Like reach out and talk to someone that you're comfortable with. It doesn't have to be anyone, it doesn't have to be everyone, but there's somebody out there that you can connect to and reach out to, and they're going to tell you like you're not alone, we're here for you. And music plays a huge role in our youth lives these days. Like they were talking about Spotify and how like their top songs on Spotify their month really like when they think about this chart, it reflects the emotions that they felt throughout that month. So they say that they can go back and look, and like months like where like they've been like happy and super excited, their playlists reflect that. In months where they've been depressed or feeling stressed, like that playlist reflects that in. So let's use what they're using and help get a message out there. So misconceptions would be that it only impacts females, that it's as easy as saying like, I don't want to be involved in this relationship anymore, so I'm leaving. The misconceptions that surround it ultimately surround the fact that it's people pushing their values and beliefs on other individuals versus really like thinking about safety and security for that individual that is involved in that situation. So we don't need judgment. We need you to understand and support the safety and the security for that individual, that family, and those involved in the situation. And really, until that can be put as a priority, and drop down the judgment and values and beliefs, we're always going to be faced with these misconceptions and always looking to break down that barrier and ultimately reduce the stigma. It's not easy for someone involved in a domestic violence situation or even teen dating violence situation to just one day say like you're being violent, you're being abusive, like this isn't a good relationship, I'm leaving. Like it's not that easy. And like for an outsider to say like, well, why don't they just leave? Why do they stay? That's a huge misconception. And then the other misconception is that this victim blaming, and that, well, were they asking for it? What were they wearing? Like, what did they do? Like, there doesn't need to be a victim blaming, and like that's also not going to change until we take out our personal beliefs and judgments in that. Because when we think about a situation, like it's really hard to separate like personal versus like facts, but really like the facts need to speak. Anyone that we can be talking to can be impacted by an intimate partner violence of some type. And if we're all mindful of that and really approach things with kindness and understanding and listening and support, we'll get somewhere. But until then, we can't. And like our families, like the youth families that we're all working with right now, like first off, they're worried about perception. Like, are they the best parent? Are they the ideal parent? Are they meeting this mold that society has created for parents? And if you don't, like, what does that mean for you as a parent? So our youth are have like they have a really hard time being their authentic, unique self. They have a hard time sharing their honest opinions, their beliefs, and their values with someone who should be a trusted adult, because that trusted adult is worried about breaking the mold that society has created for them. And then we have some youth that have been secondary trauma as a result to domestic violence that has occurred in their family of some type. We have some individuals who have been involved in unhealthy relationships with partners, in middle school or high school, and that trauma, in trying to deal with that trauma. But a lot of times, like, there's also the stigma that, like, you don't need counseling, you don't need someone to talk about it. Like, if you really want to talk about it, you can talk about it with me. Like, I'm your parent. But our youth need support. They
Right.
need their safety and security, like, uplifted and encouraged. The other thing is, like, there's this generational aspect to it of what's healthy to you in your family may not be healthy to someone else in their family. Experiences really affect that, and environments affect that perception of that. And so someone may think that they are in a healthy relationship, but to somebody else, they may not be because of experiences and expectations within each family as a whole, too. And if we're all like just going, like, really focusing on navigating life and trying to be the best that we can be and understanding, that's really going to be what like helps shift this and change that. And for our youth, like, they have this opportunity because they're part of the teen advisory council to like be heard and to share their experiences, their thoughts, and like for others to really have this conversation. And not everyone agrees, but there's a space where they get to really navigate this and talk about it in an understanding, open, honest, respectful way. And that's a skill that they're going to need the rest of their life because no one's beliefs or values, opinions, or experiences are ever going to align. And when you have the skill to be able to talk about that, understand, resolve conflict in a healthy way, then that's going to trickle into future relationships, whether it's with parents, siblings, partners, professors, like bosses, like that skill is going to help that. But the challenge is like encouraging that and allowing and encouraging parents to allow that too, especially like at the dinner table when you're talking about it. Like the season in which our youth just came through COVID, that this political season, and now this season of like trying to understand these different laws that are either trying to be in place or being removed and changed. Like they're going through so much, and it's really easy for an adult to say like, you're a child, like this isn't impacting you, don't worry about it, versus like hearing like their fears and their thoughts on that and helping them navigate that and gain a better understanding. For me, I mean, really, it's because this is why I do the work that I do. I do it because I want to empower our youth. And I remember sitting in my interview when I took this position and someone saying like, "Why do you want to do this?" And me, I said, "I want to empower them. I want to empower youth. I want to empower the individuals I work with to know that like who they are, that they have a voice and that it's going to make a change, to empower them to recognize if they're in an unhealthy relationship, what they can do. When you empower individuals with skills and knowledge and understanding, they get to shape who they are with that. In this empowerment of getting to be your unique, authentic self and knowing that there's somebody out there that's willing to listen and that really like uplifts you for being who you are, that's what gives them this hope of their future. That's what gives us the hope of, hey, like there's going to be less violence in our life one day, or I can go be a songwriter in Nashville, or I can get a scholarship to go to college and further my education and be the first one in my family. Like when you empower them with that, like that truly is what impacts. And then like the empowerment of them being engaged within our community, breaking down these barriers and creating this social change is what is paving the path for my three kids. Like the work that I'm doing is going to help support my three children as they grow up and create this environment in this community that's uplifting these strengths versus really like honing in on these weaknesses and risk factors.